Yeah.
You're all
right, we're going live then, right? All right. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world today. So I have a super special guest that I'm going to be having a conversation with today. So for all of my audience who know me well, as you know, I'm Amy Oldfield. I'm a nutrition coach and personal trainer. And for those who don't know me that well, hello. I'm joined by Helen Zee today. Very cool. Helen is over in Australia. I'm in UK. So that's the beauty of online. We can connect anywhere, anyhow. So very cool. And Helen is a fertility coach and intimacy educator. So if you've seen the title of today's video, we are going to be talking about finally how women can train with their cycle, and how Helen and I believe that this is going to be the future of women's health and women's exercise. So we're going to dive into this conversation and I hope you enjoy it. So Helen, thank you so much for joining me here today on this live. Let's start off by finding out a bit about Helen Zee. Who is Helen and why do you do what you do?
Thank you, Amy. It's a delight to connect with you and also the audience that we get to serve on a daily basis. So it's a real joy to be here. By way of brief introduction, I have got a, oh wow, here we go. It's like, what do I start with first? Okay, I will start with, I am a fitness professional and I still work in the industry at this moment, as well as a yoga teacher. And I have been working in the fertility sector now for well over 15 years. So I help women and couples boost their fertility markers through dietary, lifestyle factors, as well as cyclical fitness, which we will talk about today, and also touch on intimacy where needed. And I help them create beautiful babies and families into the world.
Yeah, what an amazing and powerful and rewarding job, right? And that's one of the things that I've always loved about working in this space, just how fulfilling and rewarding it is, helping people to see that difference in their life and, you know, making real impact. So like, we're definitely on the same page when it comes to all of that good stuff. Yeah. So we're here today to talk about cycle-based fitness, cyclical living, cycle syncing, all of that. And if you've heard of any of those phrases before, then you're going to love this conversation. And if you haven't, then listen up, because hopefully you should learn a ton. So from your perspective, Helen, what does cycle-based fitness mean for women?
Yeah. So what it means is that we don't get to train the same way and the same schedule day in and day out, week in and week out. We need to try and mix it up so we can support our menstrual health. So when we're able to sync our exercise to optimize in what our hormones are doing for our body, we're going to be able to get the results that we want a lot faster. We are also going to help support the longevity of our life as we transition through, not just from 1 week to the following week of that one menstrual cycle, but also throughout the longevity of our fertility years. And by that, I mean that when we are menstruating, we are in our fertile years. Whether we choose to get pregnant or not is a choice. So when I say fertile years, I'm speaking to every woman out there that is a menstruating woman. And we can also then transfer some super cool research-based exercise protocols for perimenopause and menopause. So we don't want to be able to have a woman who's bloated or is not losing weight, thinking that by doing more HIIT classes and by dietary restrictions, this is going to give them the results, because many times they come knocking on the door and say, I am flogging myself and I am not getting the results that I want. So we work with the body and not against the body.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's been my world as well. So my background in being a face-to-face personal trainer and in recent years transitioning into helping people online, one of the things that I noticed when I had my PT studio and female clients would come in and train, like some weeks they would be full of energy, so strong, getting all the personal bests and just crushing it and loving their workouts. And then the next week or the week after, they would feel like a different person, but expect their body to perform in the same way, and then feel really frustrated with themselves because they couldn't do what they did 2 weeks ago. They didn't have the strength. They couldn't lift as much as they did. And it's having that understanding that the female body, it changes quite a bit throughout the month. It needs different things, and that can help you to enjoy your fitness journey so much more than thinking you should constantly be progressing every week, every month, and pushing hard all month round. It can feel a lot more empowering once you have that knowledge and start to work with your body rather than just constantly fighting it, beating yourself up, getting annoyed, potentially like bursting into tears because you can't do what you did a couple of weeks ago. So I think this educational piece of cycle-based fitness is so invaluable for menstruating women.
Yeah. And it takes me to thinking as well, like, so I'll do some shop talk now, but I will actually explain what it is. And it's called periodized training. Now, Amy would definitely know that when she's personal training, she will make out a 12-week schedule, or say thereabouts 12 weeks. And in that, we've got the build-up phase, we've got the plateau phase, but we also need to put in the rest phase to be able to give the body the stresses, the external stresses that it needs to be able to go into the muscle mass that it needs, or to lose that body fat, or conditioning an amateur athlete or someone that's, helping someone periodize. So what I mean by periodize, it's a scheduled program with a known net effect at the end of it. And when we are training amateur athletes or someone for a sporting event, everybody knows that this is what happens. So even when we see our sporting people around the world, male and females, they have a periodized training. And so when we can take that down and go, when we're working with the female's body, we put it in that and layer that periodized training one step further, we're able to optimize the health of the body as well as the output that person wants to, the output that person wants to have for themselves. Whereas what we're seeing now, and you can agree or disagree with me, Amy, but when we've got that cut and cookie cutter approach of just going in and doing X amount of classes so you can get your money's worth, and so it has to be all HIIT classes, and then HIIT, boxing, Tabata, they're all high intensity classes. And so we think even that we've got a variation, but the intensity is not varied. And so we're not seeing, and I know we're going to talk about this today, but we're not seeing some of the other training effects where the woman's body working with her hormones works with her and not against her.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And where you reference that an athlete will use periodization,
Yeah.
we might think, oh, well, I'm not an athlete. I'm just like a woman who wants to feel fit and healthy and lose some weight and feel strong. But we still need to approach our training in exactly the same way. So as you say, like I will periodize people's training plans so that there is a particular focus at each time. And so they're working on different skills and different strengths and not always just doing the same thing over and over. And that approach, it applies for athletes, amateur athletes, general population. Everyone should not be doing the same thing day in, day out. And like you said, many people going to their Zumba classes, their HIIT classes, their circuits, and there's no real structure to that. They're just doing exercise to burn calories, get hot and sweaty, feel the burn, and there's no structure or end game to it. And so women don't see the progress, they don't make the strength gains, they get burnout, their menstrual cycles go wild, their perimenopausal symptoms go insane, and then they're like, why do I feel this way? I feel like I'm doing all the things the industry is telling me to do to feel healthy, to lose weight, to get fit, and I feel like crap. And it's because like they're not listening to their bodies, they're not periodizing, and they don't know how to actually structure an effective resistance training program to get the results and the health that they want. So completely agree.
Yeah, we agree. And
so one thing that I wanted to ask you about, Helen, was, and this is a slight segue, but I'm sure it's very relevant, is some of your clients that are preparing for egg freezing. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because I think this is really interesting.
Yeah. So from which perspective did you want me to hit it tonight? For you?
Yeah, like why might a woman think about egg freezing and where can she start?
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I'm having more people come to me for egg freezing. It's become a lot more available. The rules have changed with IVF about who can actually access the services, and women are coming more forward and wanting to freeze their eggs. And they know that it's not a freeze and forget process. Well, I'm hoping they know it's not a freeze and forget process. Because when you're freezing your eggs, you're actually freezing your health in today's date. So the health of what you are and the health of your eggs is a result of the lifestyle that you've had over the last 4 months. And, you know, I won't go talking too much into what happens for the human body, but basically when we ovulate, that is the result of our body working for about it's actually it's more like 8 months, but most people know it as that 4-month point. So we'll talk about that 4-month or that 16-week point. So what you've eaten, how you've slept, the stresses in your life, how your body has responded to anything and everything that you're doing, where cryogenically freezing your health today to be able to thaw it out in the future and then re-meet your body with the health that was years ago, months ago, and try and bring that together. So women that come to me because I do fertility work, it's the best place for them to go, I suppose, because I know the fertility aspect, even though they don't want to get pregnant right now. But what they need to go through is the same protocols as if you were going to have IVF and have a life transfer done. And so what I do is I look at the lifestyle factors and create a personalized blueprint for that woman. I will ask for menstrual health. Is their menstrual health healthy? It astounds me how many times I ask that question of women that I'm working with, and they said, my fertility professional or my IVF specialist has never asked me. They've really asked me, like they might know that my periods are irregular and they'll do some hormonal testing, but to say what the health of your period is and what to do, irrespective of using drugs, what you can do, and you can do a lot naturally to get your period more regular and more on that healthy spectrum. So we'll work with that. I work with cycle-based fitness. So say, for example, if a woman presents with irregular periods and has PCOS, so we've already got a hormonal imbalance. We know that there's a lot more testosterone in the body. There is most probably estrogen dominance in the body. And so we'll take that as a factor. And if her periods are irregular, there is stagnation that's in the uterus space, and it's brown blood, long periods. It might be chalky, it might be black. These are the questions that I ask. It might be very clotty. So there's stagnation. We need to get more blood flow into the uterus. So how do we do that? We do that through certain types of exercises in the certain parts of the cycle. It's the best way to actually get all that goodness into the uterus. So then when it starts to contract, that old residue can start to expel out, and you're able to have, in a matter of a month or 2 month cycles, be able to have a lot more freshness come through. So it is diet, it is sleep habits, it is the amount of stress that they might have into their life, and most definitely the types of exercises they can do and when to help themselves out. And
you know what, that is so invaluable. And I wish I had someone like you by my side when I was going through my IVF journey, because doctors are amazing at what they do, but they don't help you out with all of this stuff that you're talking about, like what you can really do with your exercise and with your nutrition to make that journey so much more enjoyable and ultimately successful, because it's a hard journey.
Yeah, Amy, and I'm sorry to hear that you had to walk that path as well, because it can be excruciating. You can feel like your life has been hijacked and your thoughts have been hijacked, and you still have to get up and show up and put on that smiley face. And on the inside, that 2-week wait period is agonizing, and the not knowing is absolutely agonizing.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy journey. My experience was a humongous failure. I didn't even get as far as a 2-week wait, which in some ways was a blessing. But you know what, that was a long time. That was like a previous version of me, so I'm very much healed from all of that. And actually in a place now where I love my child-free life, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But obviously there's many women who aren't in that camp, and they need that support to finally have the life that they want.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that, and I'm really glad that you're saying what you're saying, Amy, because when we can be at peace with what is happening and transition through, life is kinder. Our mindset is kinder to ourselves. We are kinder to our inner dialogue within ourselves, right? And going back a few sentences before, when you were saying about your fertility journey and your IVF journey, and doctors not really knowing how to guide people in this way. And I want the listeners to know, because I know you and I both know this, they're not trained to be fitness professionals. They're not trained to be dietitians. They are specialists in their area. And so I know that when I got my qualification 18 plus years ago, the tier that we fall under in the allied health professionals is a level 3 tier, which means that we are part of the allied health team, which means that the doctors that don't know how to tell you what to eat in a 15-minute consultation, and now consultations are 7 minutes, they will say, here's a little leaflet, or they'll say, go to a dietitian, because that's what they specialize in. They should be saying, go to your fitness professional, and say that, ask your fitness professional these questions. And this is something that I've got a checklist for the women that I work with online that may not necessarily fully do all my fitness training with me, but I give them a fitness instructor questionnaire for them to go and ask their fitness instructor and say, hey, I'm on the journey of getting pregnant. What should I be doing? What should I not be doing? Even if it is a class that you're ready to go into, a group class, you should get there earlier. You should get their attention. You should have a little conversation with them. This is what I expect, and this is what I expect in my classes, because I do group fitness and I also do the personalized training. So a good trainer should be able to then say, I'm going to pull you aside, I'm going to get your number, and we're going to talk about this. This is part of the service. This is called allied health professionals. And I know that you and I do this, Amy, because we are in this industry, and I know we do it well. I know of your work. But what I would love to see an advocate is more of the clinicians and the other allied health professionals, including, say, physiotherapists, etc., to work with us for us to have a holistic plan for our clients. That's where I want this to go.
Yeah, 100%. It has to be a team effort, doesn't it? I remember when I was in the IVF clinic, and I'm going back like 3 years ago now, and I didn't know what exercise I should be doing whilst going through IVF, and nor did the nurse that I was talking to. She was like, well, really, you don't want to be doing any exercise at the moment. Maybe just go and do some Pilates. And I was like, have you done Pilates? Like, that's not just lying on the floor chilling out. Like, that can be some really intense core work. And you're telling me not to do any abdominal exercise. I was like, oh, I'm lost here.
Right? So, amazing. I say amazing because it's sad, but it's amazing because we're actually here to have this conversation. So one thing that I've got a guide, an exercise guide that I give out to the women that I work with. And these are the exercises not to do while you're going through IVF and also through the 2-week wait period. Now, I was fortunate enough many years ago that in Melbourne here, where I live, I was asked to run a pilot program at an IVF clinic. So I was working as a pharmaceutical manager at the time, but I also owned a fitness studio down the road. I had a big capacity back then, a lot bigger than what I've got now, right? And so I would leave my pharmaceutical job, I'd kick off my stilettos, I'd have a car full of equipment, I'd wear my runners, I'd go to Monash IVF and turn a boardroom into a fitness circuit. And so every week, the patients would come and train, okay? So Monash IVF paid me for that, and the women got that service for free. And so we actually did a research study, and they get, you would know the amount of blood work and pathology work that you do when you're on IVF is off the charts, right? So we would do body scans and they would have their blood work done. But what was happening during that 6-month period is we got to see exponential results in the egg quality, as well as what was being surviving and viable through the freezing process, as well as the thawing process, as well as the transfer process and into live births. So while I did that program, we had about a 70% success rate in live births, which is tremendous. Like, it's absolutely phenomenal. So I would let the nurses know, and since then I've also told my clients that you can still train, but you can train. There's certain times in the IVF period that you should not train, and I can give you that guide. So if anyone is listening to this through coming into my opt-in, which I'll give you, just send me a message personally once we're connected, and I will give you these extra guides, right? This is what I'm here to do. Pilates, where sometimes you've got little hand weights and you're doing side twisting, right? There's a fair bit of side twisting that happens in Pilates as well. If a woman is being stimulated, so for follicle stimulating hormones, their ovaries and their follicles are so much bigger than what would be normal. And what can happen is a woman can suffer from ovarian torsion. And basically what that means is, if I had something like, it's Valentine's Day, I've got some roses here. So
they can sort of get twisted together, can't they? Because they're so
right? It twists together, right? It twists on each other. So we don't want to have any side lying with weights, because you can actually get ovarian torsion. And they don't tell you that. And the other thing is, with a 2-week wait period, you can do some very gentle exercises to keep the blood flowing, to keep yourself moving, because this will also help for the health of you and that growing tiny, tiny embryo to have a much healthier start in life. So there's a lot of education to be had.
Yeah. And if there's people listening to this who are on that fertility journey, on that IVF journey, then definitely take advantage of Helen's offer to get her free download, because there'll be some really useful info in there for you that perhaps your doctor may not have given you. So I'd love to just flip back to talking about how women can start to work their training around their menstrual cycle, and particularly in that perimenopausal time of life. I've seen a lot of women get into burnout because, like we said before, like they're doing all the things right, they're trying to get fit and healthy, they're doing all the circuits, all the Zumba, all the running, and training for hours and hours and not getting the results that they want. And I do feel like cycle-based fitness is getting a bit of a name for itself now. There's various apps. There's elite athletes that are now talking about it more and how they're honoring the menstrual cycle. So the word is getting out there into the mainstream, and women are starting to understand that we can't, well, we can, but we probably shouldn't train exactly like a man. Like, women are so capable of doing anything they want, but it's that it's not optimal for your body, especially as you get older. We're just not as resilient anymore. We have a lot of stressors coming from our life, a lot of stressors coming from hormonal changes. Do we really need to be adding all the stresses from training as well? So yeah. From your perspective, Helen, how do you see that this might be able to become more mainstream and like the norm for what women do?
Yeah. I feel like a lot more women need to speak out, and they are speaking out, and athletes are speaking out, and they're saying no to being put on the pill to stop their periods, so it can all be about performance. We have seen athletes come out and say that they have struggled to get pregnant when they did want to get pregnant, and really, which other workplace inhibits our sexuality, inhibits our reproductive space, right? Just to be able to churn it out, to churn out the work, and the work in this particular case is fitness, right? Now, you've touched on a few things, because you also touched on perimenopause, you touched on, the hormonal profile, how we're going to get this out there. So let me just tick everything off the list. To talk about the athletes, if we can have more and more people coming out and saying that there's got to be another way to be able to train optimally, I feel that there are exercise physiologists out there that can actually work with that kind of work with a woman's body without compromising her. They just need to be able to find the way, because it is there. They just got to be prepared to do it and keep their client, which is that person, that woman, at the center of her overall health. The way that we do it, the way that you and I do it, which is just a reflection of how it can be done, is we will work with where they are in their cycle. So we've got the follicular phase, that's after the bleed phase. So can we go into that for now?
Yeah, let's go.
Awesome.
So important for everyone to know the phases.
Yeah, right. So we've got the follicular phase, and the follicular phase is straight after we menstruate, before we ovulate. And in that particular phase, we've got more estrogen in the body. We've got some follicle stimulating hormone that's high at the beginning, but then starts to drop down, because it'll start to pick one follicle to say, we're ready to ripen you up now. Okay. And if you're going to have twins, you're going to have 2 follicles. We also have progesterone, but progesterone is not as high yet, but it's actually trying to get up there. So with O, estrogen, like I'm Australian, so estrogen we sound out with an O.
Yeah, we spell it with an O at the beginning.
Yeah, whereas Americans
Yeah.
are with an E. And so I like saying to my clients that anything in the body that has an is big O, round O, is estrogen formed, like bones, breasts, genitals, like anything that grows, including, unfortunately, cancer, inflammation, tumors, fibroids. That's estrogen as well, because that will make things grow as well. Okay. So, but in that part of the phase, we've got a lot more available energy to us. Our basal metabolic rate is lower than what it would be if we were ovulating and just post-ovulation. So this is where you reach out to Amy and you go, and to Helen, and go, this is where you can really do your personal best. You've got more energy. It's estrogen, it's building, it's creative. You're in that creative phase. It's the building block phase. And so we work with the body in that building block phase. So go for your personal best breasts.
You like breasts too.
Right. Like that's the time where you're able to hit your program nice and strong. In the ovulation phase, it's very, very similar to the follicular phase, except what happens, and I love this, and I didn't think we'll talk about this, but I would have had a mandarin. So imagine me having a mandarin and peeling off the mandarin, and you're left with the skin. Now, when the ovum is out of the follicle, that skin that's left, that shell that's left over is called the corpus luteum. This becomes a progesterone-making factory, and it produces so much progesterone to actually try and help that this particular egg, if it is fertilized, has got like a very thick, warm bunny rug to be able to attach and feel warm and nestled into the endometrial lining for a successful pregnancy to take place. So when women are low in progesterone, they might have an egg fertilized, but the implantation rate doesn't happen successfully. Okay. So in the ovulation phase, what I like saying to my women is you bring your sexy on. So if you dance, put on tunes, like really get into, do your workouts, but also move and groove and just feel your body like being playful, because you're more social at this time. You feel like you're more social. People are noticing you more. Your partner can, if you've got a partner, they can smell you. They know that they're through pheromones that your changes are happening. We then come to the luteal phase, and there's two phases to the luteal phase, and that is, one, you might be pregnant, so we've got to have a different trajectory of training you, or period, limiting your training schedule for a short while. Or two, you're not pregnant and you're going to be working towards your Menzies phase. The first part of the luteal phase, we've got so say you're not pregnant, progesterone will stay high for a certain period of time, and then it goes, well, the corpus luteum is not supplying the extra progesterone. A pregnancy didn't happen here. Progesterone lowers, estrogen is low. And I forgot to say that during the ovulation phase, testosterone is high as well. Yeah. So then what happens is that the corpus luteum then collapses onto itself. It's no longer needed. Progesterone is low, and that's what will be a trigger to spark the uterine lining to be shed through the body. So there's a lot happening in the luteal phase. So in the first part of that phase, women will still be able to feel like that they can do more, but there will be a peak point. And time again, I've seen this so many times training women. They'll just go, exactly what you said, why can't I do what I did last week? And we might be on a cross trainer and I'm just hanging over chatting to them, and they're like, and you go, oh my gosh, it's like they're doing it, and then it's like there's like a their body gets deflated. It's like, hang on a minute, I should be able to do this. And then it's like a woof, and the body drops down again. And they'll look over and say, I don't know what's wrong with me today. And then if we lean in as trainers and say, what phase of your cycle are you in? And they go, oh, I should be bleeding in the next week or so. And we give them that information. That is bloody empowerment. Like, they don't think that there's something wrong. They don't go down on themselves and be, their mindset talking through. It's like, oh yeah, cool. This is cool, right? And so then near the end of that cycle, a lot of women can feel like when their hormones are going into the trajectory of shedding, where your progesterone is quite low, estrogen is quite low as well. Well, we don't do as much. We will do more higher rep, middle to low intensity training, right? So we would be more of what the hypertrophy would be. And then when you're menstruating, if those rest days are needed for 1 or 2 days, give yourself those rest days, and then just wait for when your body feels like it's peaking again. But know that these are the classes and these are the programs and these are the weights that you can do. So you're actually empowering yourself. You're still working optimally, but you're working with your body and not against your body.
Yeah, it is so powerful to be armed with this knowledge. And time and time again, when I explain this to women, they're like, oh my God, why didn't I learn this in school? And I'm going to make sure my daughter knows all of this stuff right away, because she needs to, so that she can do things a better way than how I did it.
Yeah.
And we're on exactly the same page when it comes to the way that you can continue to train throughout the whole month, but you just have to adjust things. And I feel that perhaps women think of cycle-based fitness as like an easier way of doing things, like, oh, I'm on my period, so I'm going to rest now. And when I've got PMS, I'm going to rest then as well and take things a little bit easier. But actually, like, a woman can train the whole way through, except for the first couple of days of her period. Totally agree. Like, those hormones are so low at that point, probably much better off resting. But the rest of your cycle, like, you can still challenge yourself. You're just doing different types of stuff. Like you said, that follicular phase where we have the higher testosterone and higher estrogen, and we feel like we have energy, we want to get out there, we can hit personal best. Like, that is a time when I encourage my clients to go for it, do their strength work, lift heavy, like lower the reps, do proper strength work. If you love doing high intensity cardio and hit, follicular phase, ovulatory phase, that is where your body is going to be able to handle it, enjoy it way much more. And then as you get into the luteal phase, like, some women may struggle with lower energy and PMS-y type symptoms, but you can still train. We just adjust it. Like you said, it's more of the hypertrophy style training, lighter weights, lower reps. And I love to program a deload week into the end of a woman's cycle. So deload not being just kick back and do nothing, but you're not striving to do exactly the same that you did a few weeks ago. Like, we're dropping that intensity back, maybe having like some more days off if you train frequently. And then you can come back fighting when you're back in your follicular phase. And because you've supported your body right at the right times, you will feel like so much better at the times when you're naturally meant to have highs. And you feel better at those times when you have lows. Like, the highs and the lows are just less extreme.
Yeah. I would agree with you. And as you're speaking, I was also remembering to that I can speak to this when we talk about, the high level activity and then giving some extra time off when needed. And I would definitely do that if a woman is what I would call a short cycler. And so we talk about irregular periods and maybe PCOS, endo, etc. Now, when a woman presents with a period that is less than 27 days on a regular basis, and they're only bleeding for 2 or 3 days and it's quite light, and I go into the too much information zone because I'm a menstrual health practitioner as well.
Sure.
And if their blood is pink, if it's watery, if it's orangey, they don't have enough energy in their body to hold the uterine contents and their reproductive energy, that they are bleeding out sooner. Okay. And so I give different advice for their exercise prescription, and especially if they're trying to get pregnant, because they're agonizing, they can't get pregnant. And by adjusting the exercise and what they eat when you're a short cycler, I've had tremendous results in women getting pregnant because they're able to hold their whole body energetics and the energetics of a new life. So what I say is, even though it's not a medical term, but when we got trained and we're in, the folk medicine part of what I'm talking about, we speak about uterine fatigue. Now, the uterus doesn't necessarily get fatigued because, you do reps of, biceps and deadlifts and you get fatigued like your muscles do. But it is somewhat similar. And that is when you don't have enough of your yin and your energy flowing through your body, you bleed out earlier, your body's working a lot harder in the follicle stimulating hormone to trigger everything through again and happen again. Now, and we might not think that a 23 or a 24-day bleed as opposed to the normal 27 to 30-day cycler makes a big difference, but it does. And I'll tell you why. I mean, but we're telling our listeners as well. If we start bleeding at around 13 and we bleed up till about, 52, 53, etc., in those years, times that by 12 periods, we have something like 467 cycles. Now, if a woman is a short cycler, and we know that we are born with all our eggs, and that every time that follicle stimulating hormone takes those 4 months to get a number of follicles ready, but then we just get the one follicle right at that end point of that month for ovulation. I hope this is making sense. What happens is she's using more of her eggs because a short cycler will be menstruating a lot more. Okay. And then add to that, if you're going through IVF treatment and stimulation treatment, we're also stimulating those follicles to be able to produce a lot more than we would normally if we weren't on any treatment. And so potentially the egg reserve is going to go down lower. Yeah. And that can add complications to the fertility journey and delays in the fertility journey. So when a woman is a short cycler and I'm working with her through the fertility journey, I will get her not to do as much exercise in the luteal phase. So I would give her more downtime, and I would also encourage her not to go to the higher intensity threshold. So as a general rule, and this is what is recommended globally in the fitness industry for women, and the studies have shown this, going through IVF, anywhere between 150 and 240 minutes of moderate intense exercise is needed. And the high intensity exercise, 60 to 75 minutes. That's for a body that is not purely conditioned, right? So we've got to keep that in mind. So when we put that prescription in for, my clients and layer that through, I make it nice and easy so they don't have to go, oh my gosh, I've done hot, puffy, sweaty, or I've done to exertion. I actually help them out to be able to know that the level and the balance of exercise that they're doing, whether it's me or the program, to go to their local gym wherever they are around the world, they know that the efforts that they are doing is helping them and making a difference. And Amy, we have spoken off for a while now, and I know that, my friend, you're on the same page, and the women that are in your care are getting the same level of care.
It's exactly that, isn't it? Like really understanding your unique body, like what your goal is. Are you trying to improve your fertility? Are you actually going through IVF at the moment, having a baby? Are you just trying to be the healthiest version of you so that when you reach perimenopause, like that transition is smoother? Or are you trying to get strong and fit and healthy? Like there just isn't a cookie cutter for everyone. There isn't the perfect cycle. Very few women have the 28-day, but you need to understand what your body is doing. Like, are you having a short or a long follicular phase? Are you having really short luteal phases? In which case, like if that luteal phase is really short, you might need a very different approach to someone who has a more optimal luteal phase. So it really is about learning how to like interpret your own body, do things that are in line with your goals, and get help with it as well, because women don't know this stuff from school, or even if they've had 400 menstrual cycles, they still don't know. Like I've educated myself so much over the last few years on menstrual health and periods, and I absolutely love it. I'm obsessed with it, and I know that you have many years of education and client success stories behind you as well. So people do have to get this support to get where they need to be, because there's big knowledge gaps.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned before about burnout and perimenopause again. So I feel let's touch on it because it really is important. We're seeing even a lot of apps that are out now, and women's bodies that are just so striated. And by striated, I mean that you can actually see the 8-pack. It's not a 6-pack. That is very, very, very low body fat. And we would say that if you are experiencing menstrual health issues or missing periods or problems with your fertility, we actually need to look at your level of body fat. And
that was me. I had the 6-pack. I had no body fat. Menstrual
same.
cycle was awful.
Same when I was training. Absolutely. And I felt great within myself, but it really does. It's like the superannuation, like the way that we take care of ourselves now is a superannuation of the type of perimenopause and menopause that we're going to be going through. So I'm 52 at the moment, so I've been menopausal for 2 years. So I've transitioned through my children. I got pregnant naturally at 45. So knowing how to be healthy and being able to support new life as well, experienced perimenopause and now menopausal. So I've been in the fitness industry, as I said, for a long period of time. And at my peak, I was running about 22 classes a week. And that's like showing up. That's like you're working for 22 hours physically on your body. Perimenopause, like I demineralized my body. I was having periodontal disease. I was having fibroids. I was going, wow, I'm supposed to be fit and I'm supposed to be healthy, but I feel like I'm wired and I'm not tired. And that is phase 2 of burnout, right? So when I started educating myself on exercise prescription through the perimenopause and menopausal years, one of the golden rules is that when a woman is having hot flushes and night sweats, and not sleeping properly during the night, we drop down her exercise. So if she's exercising late at night, she's overstimulating her body. So we've then got to even figure out the best time of the day to train and the intensity of the day to train. And so I, for myself, having this information, because then I was going through that phase of my life, I started to change the way that I was training. I started to change my classes. I wasn't doing a lot of high intensity classes. I don't do the back-to-back cycle spin, going on to boxing and then doing a HIIT circuit class. I now change my routine around that is also going to support me and still show up. Yeah. So, and these same rules of engagement happen if you're in a woman's body, whether you're an instructor or not. What I'm also trying to get at here is training ourselves like at these programs that are 45 minutes of like thrashing yourself around about how much you can do. And I'll name it, like say an F45 program.
Yeah, let's go. Let's name and shame.
Let's name. Well, they're great, but they don't give you and work. Like I had a woman 2 days ago, she came on a discovery call with me and she's like, I can't get pregnant, I've got endometriosis, but I've paid for F45 and I want to keep doing it. It's thrashing me out. I'm also seeing a physiotherapist and I also go to a remedial masseuse because I'm always sore and they've told me not to do it, but I've paid for it now. And I'm like, so this is costing you your life.
Yeah, you really are paying for it in more ways than one.
So
Yeah.
I said, I'm prepared to speak to your F45 people as a fitness professional and give them and give you the activities that you can and can't do if you're going to be under my care, right? But this thing about having to be lean and having to smash it and having to do your weight plates and having to and having that 8-pack, it's not even a 6-pack anymore. Women are coming wanting 8-packs, they want the little tiny bit down the bottom, and we're not to be trained like men. We will keep stuffing ourselves up and we'll be paying for it. And then we go, oh, why do women have to suffer so much? Why do women have to suffer so much? And that's because we're not treating ourselves the way that nature has created us.
Yeah, like these F45 classes and other variations of that, women think that they're doing high intensity training that is beneficial for their body. But if you're doing high intensity training for more than about 15 minutes, it's not high intensity. You're just killing yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I love this conversation and we could probably carry on and we will do a part 2. So anyone watching, like there is a part 2 to this, by the way, coming in 2 weeks. Like how can people come and work with you, Helen? What program do you have and how can people get it?
Yeah, I feel that I've got a lot of different programs, but I feel a good sweetener and a starting point is to sign up for a 6-day mini course. And in that, I would take you through it's more than a taster because I'm an oversharer and I want to help people as much as possible. But I actually synergistically work through 6 pillars in the blueprint of health, and that is exercise, nutrition, mindfulness, intimacy of self-care, and also our natural being in nature. So signing up for that, you will get my go-to checklists where you take an inventory of your body and your health and you identify where the strengths are and you identify where the gaps are. So that would be the best way to start. And then after that, we can actually fill in to say, this would be one-on-one work, or this would be this program that's set for you and you go at your own pace, or whatever the case might be from there. I do like to tailor people's efforts because people are paying money. They want to invest money. They want to invest time. So I just don't want to do cookie cutter, but the best way to start is by going into the blueprint, which is that mini course that I've got to offer. And I can put that down the bottom. And I'm always contactable. I'm personable and happy to chat and offer advice.
Fabulous. You are, yeah, so generous with your advice. And I can really see that you go the extra mile for your clients as well. Like you said, like, I want to go and talk to your doctor. I want to go and talk to your fitness instructor. You are right there in the trenches, aren't you, with your clients, getting them that result. So, yeah, you're just a wonderful person, and this has been a really fun conversation. We've touched on quite a few things, haven't we? And I hope that everyone watching this has really enjoyed it and found it super useful as well. So we'll drop some links below so you can find Helen, and any questions that you have, drop them below. Let us know what follow-up questions you have from this, and if there's just been anything in our conversation you've resonated with and you've been like, oh wow, like that is me, just let us know, and it would be great to hear from you all. Do not be strangers. So part 2 coming in a couple of weeks. I can't remember the exact date off the top of my head, but we will let you know in advance when we're going to be live again, and looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.